Hi everyone, how are you? Thank you for joining us early today. We have a graduation in the family, so we um, we will be attending that, or some of us will be attending that, or babysitting so others can attend that kind of thing this afternoon. So if you see the red dot over my head, then that means we're live. Please let me know that you're here and say hello. And if you don't see the red dot over my head, then that means that you're watching the recording, and you are more than welcome to still comment. Just hashtag recording. Um, just wanted to let you know a little bit about the website and the Facebook page, churchdirect.net. Um, the purpose of this is to get the word out to people that maybe for whatever reason, job or illness or whatever, can't get to church, but it's for anybody. If you have a prayer request, you can please send in your prayer request. There are people that will pray for your request. Let's see, just kind of giving it a few minutes. It looks like we're not going to have a lot of people joining us. Maybe we didn't advertise that we were going early today as well as we should have. But that's okay. You can, if you catch us on the replay, you can do that. Anyway, last night while I was in church, I had this thought, and it's been playing with me for a while, and it's what I might want to be speaking on. So I want y'all to pray over this, because this is going to be a really difficult, complex subject. It's not today. It's something I'm going to have to study. But the thought is the battlefield is in the mind. So just be praying for that and look for that study to come up. But today we're doing Matthew chapter 13. So we're going to get started reading chapter 13. The same day went Jesus out of the house and sat by the seaside, and great multitudes were gathered together unto him, so that he went into a ship and sat, and the whole multitude stood on the shore. And he spake many things to them in parables, saying, Behold, hey Carolyn, behold, a sower went forth to sow. And he sowed some seeds. And when he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and the fowls came and devoured them up. And some fell upon stony places where they had not much earth, and forthwith they sprung up, because they had no deepness of earth. And when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprung up and choked them. But others fell into good ground and brought forth fruit, some 100-fold, some 60-fold, and some 30-fold. You notice at the beginning it says, at the same day Jesus went out to the house and sat by the seaside, and a great multitudes were gathered together unto them, so that he went into a ship and sat. He was by the seaside, and so many people came to hear him, he actually had to get into a boat a little bit offshore to talk to him. You can't even get people to go to church anymore. I mean, our churches are empty. We need to be that hungry to hear what he's got to say. Hey, Sherry. But then it goes on into the parable of the sower, and I love this, and I like to study this a lot, and I wonder if I have kind of I've studied this for a long time, and I kind of have a different opinion than I used to have about it, but I always wondered, now, is this speaking to saved people or lost people, or could it apply to both? But let's kind of break it down. And he spake many things unto them in the parable, saying, Behold, a sower went forth to sow. The seeds are the word of God, and the soil is your heart. And when he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and the fowls came and devoured them up. The fowls represent the devil. This is an example of a person who hears the word, but instead of letting the word start storing their heart, they harden their heart. They let the devil snatch the word up through distraction, hardness of the heart, whatever. And this person does. I think this person is a person who does not accept. They've heard the truth. Maybe they've been in church, but whenever God starts fingering that heart, the devil will bring in a distraction or bring up a thought to harden that heart, and they listen to the wrong voice, and they do not accept. Some fell upon stony places where they had not much earth, and forthwith they sprang up, because they had no deepness of earth. And when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. To me, I take this as a person who still probably didn't really accept, but maybe thinks that they did. we've talked about a lot in this study, people that think that they're saved, but they're not. Um, we've talked about the importance of, you can't just come up and say that it is that simple, that you can just confess with your heart. I mean, confess with your mouth, but you have got to believe it in your heart, and you have to be called by God. You can't just say, I think I'll get saved today. Jesus saved me, and that's it. No, God's Spirit has to call you. You be under, and when you respond to that conviction through that prayer, I mean, it can be just that simple, but you've got to mean it. You've got to be called by God. So I think sometimes a lot of people get caught up. Sometimes they might get caught up in emotion instead of true conviction, or whatever reason a person might go and pray a prayer that they don't really mean. It could be maybe you're at a revival and your whole family's going up and you're moved by emotion, and so you're like, well, you go up too, and you say, and because you've been taught that it's that simple, you just, that Romans 10:9, you just need to pray and confess that. You do, but you're really not. You're really being moved by emotion and not the conviction, not the calling of the Holy Spirit.
Sometimes just plain fear, because you've heard the truth. God's not necessarily dealing with you, but it still scared you.
Yes, yeah. So these are people, I know that we've also talked about people that are truly saved that sometimes will drift away. That has happened to me. I'm not proud of that, but it did. But these people are people that will drift away, and then you never see them come back. I think that's the people that these verses are talking about. They heard the truth, the word fell on them, but there really wasn't any roots there, so they kind of withered away. So, and then in verse 7, and by the way, if you're late joining us, I say, hey, I think I spoke to you, Sherry. If I didn't, I'm sorry. That we're in Matthew chapter 13, and right now I'm talking about verse 7. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprung up and choked them. Now, I think this person could be a believer, or it could also be referring to someone who is not a believer. But the reason I say that this person could be a believer is I see this as someone who maybe doesn't get grounded, and then they get hit with all the things of the world, and they have trouble getting dedicated. They may be saved, but they never really make the impact for Christ the way they should. It could also refer to someone who never accepted. Maybe God started working with their heart, and they started going to church, or they started listening to a Bible study, or they started putting themselves in a spot where maybe they could hear the truth, but then before they actually get to that point, they let the world take that from them. So I think that could go either way. But I think we all know people that, and we know about Noah's salvation, but I think we all know people that we see has professed, but then they just, after the first few weeks, they fell away and never went back to. I think that's kind of, verses 5 and 6 would kind of explain those people. My thoughts would be that those people really did not make a truth confession. Then we know people that they made a confession, and we see that they've done good things, that we see them serving God, but we've seen that they've struggled, and at times they're not where they need to be. I think those are people that probably did make a true confession, but they're letting those thorns steal their joy. So anyway, and then in verse 8 it says, but others fell into good ground and brought forth fruit, some 100-fold, some 60-fold, and some 30-fold. Those are people who truly are saved and truly serve. That doesn't mean that they won't ever have times that they're not where they're supposed to be, because we're human. We're always going to have those times. But they make an impact for God with their life. They don't have to be a great evangelist, but whatever they do in their family. The greatest mission field we have is our family. It doesn't matter if you're out winning. I mean, it does. But if you're out winning the whole world to the Lord, that's wonderful. But not if it's costing you your own family. That's your first mission field. I'm not saying, if God's called you to preach or to be a missionary or whatever, but I'm saying don't forget that those children you gave birth to, that husband that's lost, or that wife that's lost, that's your biggest mission field. So anyway, so even if you're not doing these great big things for the Lord, you can make an impact. The biggest impact you will make over those people.
I want to add something just because of what you're talking about, ministry, leading and guiding. I was in a Bible study last night, 1 Corinthians 16. I'd never read this word before, addicted. Paul was writing the letter to the Corinthians, and he said in verse 15 that they have addicted themselves to the ministry of the saints. I mean, that's just,
I hadn't read that before either.
I'd never seen the word, or it never clicked for me. And when he was talking about it, that's what I want to be remembered as, somebody who was addicted to the ministry of God, addicted to sharing and telling.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I just wanted to share that because it kind of goes along with what you were talking about.
It does. Hey, Jennifer, and you make a difference in whatever circle you're in.
Right, one way or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you're not making an impact for Christ in your circle, then you're making an impact the other way.
Exactly.
You have an influence. And that's what I try to tell some of my loved ones right now that are kind of not exactly where they should be. Okay, well, your salvation may be okay, and I hope it is, but you are leading the people you love to heaven or hell. One or the other.
Always. Because everybody's always watching you.
Exactly.
And instead of creating pressure, that should create joy. To think that by what I do in the next 5 minutes, I could impact somebody's life.
Right.
For Jesus.
Right. Verse 9, and who hath ears to hear, let him hear. And the disciples came and said unto him, why speakest thou unto them in parables? And he answered and said unto them, because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. For whosoever hath to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he hath. Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they see and see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. And in them is fulfilled the prophecy. Oh, I apologize. I normally remember to turn that down. And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, which saith, by hearing ye shall hear and shall not understand, and seeing ye shall see and shall not perceive. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I would heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For verily I say unto you, that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see those things which you see, and have not seen them, and to hear those things which you hear, and have not heard them. Well, there's a lot there, and we could get into a lot of stuff, but we have 52 verses here, and I want to kind of make sure we cover everything. So basically what I hear is the disciples are saying, why are you speaking in parables? Why? I mean, that's kind of, and when we're seeking God, we're going to hear the things of God. When we're looking for Him, that's what we're going to see. The Bible talks about to be looking for the return of the Son of Man, but we've got to be looking for Jesus every day. We got to be in His Word. We got to be looking for Him in our lives every day. And so I think He's just saying, these people that their hearts are cold and they're not really going to hear the truth anyway. But if you want to hear the truth, it's here. That's kind of how I take it. Like I said, there's probably a lot of stuff there, but I just kind of wanted to get into the all of the chapter. But has anybody got anything that they want to say at this point, or anything on those verses that they feel like needs to be brought out? And if you watch us on the recording, you can always come back and comment anything that you want to add, or anything. Like I said, I kind of feel like I'm skipping over those. All right, verse 18. Hear ye therefore the parable of the sower. When anyone heareth the word of the kingdom and understandeth not, then cometh the wicked one, and catcheth away that which was sown in his heart. That is he which received the seed by the wayside. And I could not read that verse, and I may have shared this story with you before, but without thinking of this story that a pastor I used to have shared. He said this was not in his congregation. This was a pastor friend of his that shared this story with him. But this young woman and her boyfriend started attending worship service. And he said every Sunday, I mean, they were both lost, but every Sunday he could see that the girl was under conviction. He could see that it was working on her and working on her. And the last Sunday she was there, he said it was on her so strong. And right before the altar call, or right as the altar call was being given, the boyfriend got up and left. And he was like, come on. And so she got up and left. And before the altar call was over, they heard the crash. And she died. She let the devil snatch what God was trying to do. And it was too late. She got not get another chance. No, you are on dangerous ground. We are on dangerous ground when we do not heed that call, because we don't know if we'll ever have another opportunity. Everybody forgot to turn their phones down today. And while I'm at that, let me just make sure before mine goes off again. Yeah, I didn't turn it down. I just rejected the call. So I'm glad I went back to that. Verse 19, when one heareth the word of the kingdom and verse 20, but he that receiveth the seed into stony places, the same as he that heareth the word, and anon with joy